Hey everyone, welcome to It Tastes Different Gaming Appetizers. And what are we talking about this time? Well, the new PlayStation DualSense Edge is going to be coming out sometime next year, the beginning of next year, I believe. You can pre-order it now. But apparently the DualSense Edge dies faster than the original. So the new DualSense Edge, which is $200 controller, so it's kind of like the Series 2 Xbox controller. This is PlayStation's version of that Series 2 controller. They're not necessarily saying how long the battery lasts, but normal PlayStation 5 DualSense controller will last about 5 to 10 hours of charge, depending, right? I usually get about 5 hours out of it before I'm going to have to trade it out for another, charge that one and trade out for another controller. They're saying, though, however, that it is moderately shorter operating time, so a moderately shorter time than the original PlayStation 5 controller. So for me, like I said, I get about 5 hours. If I'm going to sit there and play 5, maybe 6, because I'm not really counting the hours, but it's somewhere around there. I know that much. And if we're talking moderately shorter, maybe 2-3 hours of charge on the Dual Edge before you're going to have to charge it again. And that's kind of crappy. They said of course Sony's trying to play it off. They say we've included more features within the same form factor and ergonomic design on the original DualSense controller. Additionally, there's a longer USB braided cable, which is also great for competitive players who prefer playing with a wired connection to avoid the wireless interface. This option preserves battery life. Well, if you plug it into power, it sure does. They don't specify, how moderately shorter it is, but that kind of sucks. We have all the console, PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo. The PlayStation DualSense is probably the only controller, and I love the DualSense. I think it's a great controller, but out of the Nintendo Switch Pro controller, the Xbox Series 2 controller, or with the Series 2 or the battery ones where you change the batteries in and out, the DualSense is probably the only controller in my assortment of controllers that dies the fastest. And this was the same way with the PlayStation 4 as well. And their controllers on the PlayStation 4, because my PlayStation 4 controller would die out pretty quick compared to my other controllers. I remember having to charge them pretty often during a gaming session because the battery was dying out. I mean, for my Series 2 Elite controller, I can play on that for days, it feels like, before I ever have to put it on the charging block. A regular Xbox controller that uses batteries, I could play on that for 2 or 3 days before having to exchange the batteries out. And the Nintendo Switch Pro controller, that one lasts quite a while too. On a full charge, that one will last me, quite a while before I'm going to have to plug it in and charge it. Now, granted, I don't play my Switch as much as my other consoles, but when I do play it and play through something, it does last quite a while. I don't know why the PlayStation controllers don't seem to last as long as the other controllers out in the market. It seems to have been a problem for PlayStation for quite some time. Even back because I have a PlayStation 3 as well, and that controller does last a little bit longer than the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 controllers, but it does seem to die out pretty quick. So they've always had this problem with their internal batteries, their lithium ion batteries inside these, apparently either not holding enough charge or something, because they die out pretty quickly and they degrade pretty quickly. I know my PlayStation 4 controllers, I had to end up buying new ones for that because the battery wouldn't hold a charge anymore. And that's the one thing that sucks about that. Kind of goes back to the debate between having the battery inside the controller that can't be changed out to actually having batteries, right? It's convenient, yes, but when that battery dies out, what do? You have to go out and buy another controller, right? You don't have any other option. So whereas if you have to put batteries in it, then you just go buy a pack of batteries, right? So I've went through plenty of PlayStation 4 controllers for that very problem of they just don't hold a charge anymore. The only way I can play on them is keep them plugged in 24/7. Otherwise, if I unplug it, it's completely dead. So, and that sucks. That sucks for every consumer out there trying to play video games, but especially this new DualSense. Again, they're not telling us how. We don't have our hands on one of these yet. But moderately shorter worries me. But let's go around and see what everybody thinks. Pat, what do you think?
Yeah, when you throw around the word moderately to something that is already a short lifespan, I mean, yeah, I think even the DualShock for the PS4 didn't last 10 hours on a full charge, which always amazed me because I'm like, even my Xbox, I mean, on a battery, when I was using the Xbox controllers with replaceable batteries, that thing would last me weeks. I'm not going through batteries every couple of days. I don't care how much I played. They weren't going that bad. Now, once I started using rechargeables, they died really quick. Rechargeables they die pretty quick, recharge, charge, dissipate, charge, dissipate. They tend to die, which happens with any rechargeable battery, right? But comparing the DualShock 4 to the new DualSense, there's haptic feedback and all that stuff, and it still lasts the same 5 to 10 hours. I think the PS4 was like rated 4 to 8, and this is rated 5 to 10. So, and then, the Elite 2 is really the only thing I have to compare it to because it's the only official Xbox controller that has a built-in battery. Everybody else is just replacement, or you buy those rechargeable batteries. But even those ones that had like the third-party battery that had the open back that you set on the charger, those things would last like 20 plus hours on a single charge. And my Elite 2, like Nick said, that thing's like 30 to 40 hours. And it doesn't have haptic feedback, but I have haptic feedback turned off on my DualSense controller. I don't like it. I don't need it. Don't care about it. I mean, I do have it on some things, but I have the reactive triggers turned off and crap like that because I don't want my triggers fighting me while I'm playing anything. But it really is annoying. And it is one of the few consoles that I have to have two controllers, a standby controller and the controller, my favorite controller. Everybody has a favorite controller. I bought me one of the purple controllers and I love the crap out of that thing. And every time I have to go back over to the original white one that came with it, I'm like, I want my purple one. So sometimes I'll just get a cable and plug into it. And I'm like, all right, I'll play this. I'll play with the damn cable hanging out of the end, which I'm just destroying the charging point at that point, right? I've got the controller, I'm moving it around, or I'm holding it at an angle and the cord's hanging out the end, just bending the crap out of that port, stressing the mess out of it. So I don't get it. Why is Sony using inferior batteries in these controllers? If Microsoft can do it and make something last 30 to 40 hours, why can't Sony's controller last 20 plus hours? I'm not asking for a controller that lasts 40 hours or anything like that. I am probably the worst person on controllers with putting them on the charger. Cause like my Xbox controller at the end of a gaming session, it goes back on the magnetic charger. PlayStation controller at the end goes back on the little charger that I hate to no end. It's got the singular little prong that sticks out of the end of it, and you're trying to shove the controller back and forth to make it fit in the hole. It's like, come on. What's the worst controller design charge in history? PlayStation. And then, I don't have a charging dock for my Pro Control on my Switch because I just plug it in. That thing seems to last forever. I've left it sitting out on the table because I don't want to get up off my ass and plug into a cable. So I let it sit, and I'll go through weeks of play on that thing and come back and be like, I haven't played on a week. I still got enough charge to power it on, but it's telling me that it's low, so I'll plug it in. I don't get the lifespan of the DualSense at all. And now if the Edge, how much lower can you go 5 to 10? Are you going to tell me it's 2 to 5? Because by that sense, I'm like, I'm getting ripped off. A $200 controller that I can only use for 2-3 hours, depending on what features and functions I have enabled. That to me seems asinine and poor design, but I don't have one neither. So I can't really tell you. I would like to get one. I really would like to get one, but I'm not spending $200 on a controller that only lasts me less than 5 hours playtime because I use my PlayStation for exclusive games. And like God of Ragnarok, I'd spend a day playing it, 8 hours, 5 hours. And there's no way in hell that I'm plugging that controller in after 3 hours or 4 hours of that game. So I don't know. I think a controller should at least last 10 hours minimum, 10 hours minimum. That's like a full day playing, unless you're just like mega gamer playing 16 hours a day or something, that should last you all day. If you want to make it bulletproof, make it 20 hours. You can play almost the entire day, but I don't see how anybody can make a controller with a built-in battery that doesn't last more than 20 hours. Doesn't make sense to me, but that's just me. What do you think, Shane, about these controllers on PlayStation? I actually never thought about the PS3 controller or the 4 controller until we just had this conversation. I'm like, yeah, I always plugged that damn thing in. It was always dying. Somebody died all the time. I never put 2 and 2 together because I was just always swapping between 2 controllers. It's the only console I ever do that with. So what are your take on this, Shane? What do you think about this DualSense Edge having a moderately shorter battery life?
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I mean, for $200, no, that's the PlayStation Stool Sense they can shove it, because I wouldn't pay $200 for a controller that lasts 2 hours. I mean, that's just dumb. I mean, it really makes no sense. I mean, PlayStation 3 controller, it got plugged in after every use. And it didn't start off bad, but it ended up bad fairly quick, where you'd only get 3, maybe 4 hours of time off of it. I played a lot of games then, and PlayStation 4, same way. It just started off here, and then the time frame just dropped, and you're always plugging it in. And honestly, I haven't played enough straight on my PS5 on games for quite a while. Because I only play exclusives, and I don't have as much time as I usually would like to play a game. But if I get an 8-hour shift in, great. And I can get probably 5 to 6 on my controller without having to plug it in. But I keep I got my spares, so I just I unplug one, plug in the other. But for $200 for a controller of what this is supposed to be, no freaking way. I got a Xbox Elite 2 controller for early Christmas gift, and it lasts forever. It's an amazing controller. It has all the bells and whistles. I mean, it doesn't have the force feedback or haptic feedback where it is on the sticks, but whoop-de frickin' do. And you're not going to tell me those are draining 4 hours of freaking battery. It's not. It's just not. It's them being cheap and overcharging is what it is. They're not wanting to put a quality battery in that this controller of this use would need. They're not. But they're going to charge you $200 for it. That's just terrible and greedy. I think the controller looks awesome. Some of the hands-on stuff I heard about sounds great, but $200, you're paying $100 an hour essentially to play this thing. I don't like it. It breaks my heart to hear that. It broke my heart to hear the price first, and then it broke my heart to hear that the battery only lasts like that. If they would have increased the battery life and dropped the price, I would definitely be more inclined to get one. I think $200 is too much for it, especially with the battery issue. And the knock about and if you plug it in, the battery will last longer. It's amazing. That's just the worst marketing ever. I mean, if you keep Grandpa on life support, he'll last longer. That's the same thing. So it's a nonsensical statement about a nonsensical thing.
Well, it almost sounds like even if you plug it in, it's still going to die quicker than you can put power into it. So you're not even going to be able to keep playing with it. So
you'll probably get a 5 to 10 hours. You'll fix the moderate part by plugging it in. It's ridiculous.
I think part of the reasoning, and this just is me thinking through it, is the design didn't change. Like the form factor is still the same. So maybe there's just too much crap packed into that controller and the battery is suffering because it can't have the space it needs, right? So maybe that's what's going on here, is that they're trying to stick with this form factor, and they've already got too much crap packed in there. I mean, just think about it. That top panel on the controller is touch, sound, touch, and has all the cool colors, is always doing something. So, I mean, that to me is probably part of it. The Xbox doesn't have anything like that. And so, it could probably save a little bit of battery not having to power the sensor on the top that's detecting whether you're drawing on it or moving across it or something like that, or changing colors, And then I imagine the trigger, the adaptive triggers, probably does use a lot of power, because I mean it fights you on trigger pulls, so it's constantly feeding force into that pullback. So you think about that, and then it also has rumble, just like the Xbox, the vibration and stuff like that. So it has a couple of features that the Elite controller doesn't have. None of the Xbox controllers have the reactive triggers. There's nothing like that on the Xbox, and then Xbox doesn't have that giant sensor. So and also the Xbox doesn't have sound. The Xbox controller doesn't have a speaker, right? So it's got a lot. The PS controller has a lot going on for it, and with them trying to stick in the form factor, that's probably a lot of what to do with why the controller doesn't last as long. If they would allow the controller to get a little bit more bulky, they could probably improve that life. Or if they were to strip out some features, they could probably improve the battery life. But I think form factor right now is the biggest detriment to battery life, because you need a bigger battery. Obviously, the battery that they because I would find it hard to believe that Sony is using cheap, underrated batteries in the controller like that. That just doesn't make sense. I mean, but I could be wrong too. But I would think if you're getting a flagship controller, you would want it to be the best it can be, right? Even if it means that you're spending $220 for 10 to 20 hours or 30 hours of battery life, it would basically make sense. If I'm an avid PlayStation player and I'm playing 10, 12 hours in a session, I would want the controller to last as long. I don't want to take the controller I love, that's my favorite, and play on it for only 2 to 4 hours and then have to put it away to play with something that's inferior in my eyes, because a DualSense is inferior to a DualSense Edge. That's it. It is inferior. I mean, Xbox regular controllers are inferior to the Elite 2. I don't care what you say, they are inferior. Holding, touching, and using an Elite 2, it spoils you. I pick up my regular Xbox controller and I'm like, ew, what's this? And I'm like, where's my good controller? So.
Well, yeah. Nick will let us know what it's like when he gets his. So,
I would be interested in a DualSense Edge. And we won't know for sure about the battery life until it's out in people's hands. But that right there would prevent me from getting one completely if it's only going to last like 2 or 3 hours, right, of playtime, and then it has to be charged again. And it's like, I don't want to. You're exactly right, Pat. The Series 2 controller, that's all I want to play with. If I got a DualSense Edge, that's all I would want to play with. And being able to have sometimes I do, I play my PlayStation quite a bit as well as my Xbox. And sometimes I'll have a day where I just play PlayStation. I'll get on there and there's a game I've been playing on there and I'll pop it on. And that's all I play all day. And so I don't want like 2 hours later, my DualSense Edge that I spent $200 on to have to be charged. And I'm just back to a regular controller. Right. And it's like, okay, well, once that charges, like how long does it take to charge it? Right. Is the charging time increased on those types of controllers? I don't know. And so, in reality, you're spending most of your day playing on a regular controller and only a couple hours playing on your DualSense Edge. It seems kind of stupid. I mean, hopefully moderately shorter is not what of course, we don't know what that time is, right? We don't know what moderately shorter means, but do they assume moderately shorter is 30 minutes less, right? That doesn't seem moderately shorter, but I don't know. Or is it like quite a few hours less, right? To me, it sounds like quite a few hours less, but I don't know. And we won't know until it starts getting hands-on. We start seeing people talk about how long the battery life actually lasts. If we find out the battery life is comparable to a regular, I would rather it be longer, but if it's comparable to a regular PlayStation 5 controller, even though, what we're talking about says that it's not, but if people find that maybe it's like 30 minutes shorter or maybe an hour shorter, then you might say, okay, it's not ideal, but I might look into one of these. But if it's several hours shorter, then it's like, man, I would love to have one, because I would love to have one, but not if it's only going to last me 2 hours. So I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. The PlayStation, like I said at the beginning, the PlayStation controllers have always had this problem ever since they went to wireless controllers, right? They've always had this problem of being the only controller that doesn't hold a charge as long as the rest of them. I mean, even back on, like, we talk about PlayStation 3 controllers, they do last longer because they don't have the haptic and all the other bells and whistles that the PlayStation 4s and 5s have. But they do have, if I remember correctly, they do have a shorter battery life than the Xbox, which the Xbox did use batteries, right? So there you compare the two, right? You have one that's a lithium ion inside and one that uses AA's. But the AA's will last you longer than that rechargeable battery. Plus, the thing that sucks about rechargeable batteries, even though it is very convenient to have them, right? And we have a lot of devices that have rechargeable batteries in them, but rechargeable batteries degrade over time. There are only so many charges and discharges before it doesn't do either one, right? Until it doesn't charge anymore. And that sucks, and that's, like I said at the beginning, that's happened with my PlayStation 4 controllers. I had several, a black and a white one, that don't charge anymore. They do not charge. I have some other ones that I bought and after that because I had to, because the other ones I had didn't charge anymore. And my PlayStation 5 controllers haven't ran into that, but I do in a gaming session during, if I play a PlayStation 5 game during a day or something, by the end of the night, it's most of the time, if it's a long gaming session, right? If it's only a couple hours, then no. But if it's like an all day gaming session with a PlayStation, more than likely by the end of the day, I'm going to have to, if not already, have put it on a charger and swapped it out. Whereas Xbox or the Switch Pro controller, no, I can usually play them all day and do the same thing the next day without having to change out the batteries or charge them. It sucks. It's not so much of a knock on Sony. It sucks as a consumer because the DualSense looks awesome. I think it looks really cool. I love the PlayStation 5 controller. I think it's definitely one of the best ones they've made. It's an awesome controller, but the fact that it doesn't last very long just sucks as a consumer.
Yep, and this is coming out January 26th, I think, is the release date for this. So we'll be getting some experience, some hands-on experience from people out there. I'm not sure if any one of us is going to get it, but I mean, because what I really like is what Microsoft has now done with the Elite 2 is that you can customize it in their design lab. Whereas I wish PlayStation would do that, because I would honestly, if I could get if I could get the DualSense Edge in the color that I want and the schema that I want, I'd probably pre-order it. If I'm being honest with everybody, for $200, I probably would, just because I still want it. I mean, the DualSense Edge is a really nice. The DualSense is a really nice controller. The Edge can only improve upon that. At least I hope. I hope it has the same weight and feel to it like the Elite 2 does, because I think the PlayStation controllers do feel a little flimsy. They feel lightweight in the hand, and they feel like I could easily break them. Now, the DualSense is miles above the DualShock in the sense of how sturdy it feels to me, but I don't know. We'll have to see. I am interested to see how long it'll last in a playthrough of a game, and maybe it's a gross. Maybe Sony's just planning to play it safe and be like, oh, it's moderately, but maybe instead of being 5 to 10, it's like 4 to 8 or something. I don't know. But still, that's too short in my opinion. But that's just me.
Yeah, well, Nick will let us know, won't you, buddy?
Maybe in a year or two. I'm not buying one in January. I've had plenty of opportunity to pre-order it, and it has not happened, and it won't. So I just got a Series 2. I mean, even though that was a birthday or Christmas present as well, that's an expensive controller as well. So I just don't want to double up the expensive purchases. Unless she wants to buy me another one, then that's fine. But I agree with Pat. I really wish, and Sony's not going to do this, but I really wish Sony would do a design lab like Xbox. I love design lab. it's so cool. And just like Shane showed his Xbox Series, I designed mine on there as well. And I even the regular controllers you can design on there. And I think that's really cool. And I would even love that for PlayStation, like not just for the Edge, but also for the regular controllers to be able to go on there and pick your colors and your buttons and all that stuff and everything like that, and make it your own and have it shipped out. I think that's really cool idea that Microsoft is doing and has out there with the design lab. And I'd like to see other places like Sony and like Nintendo do something like that, where you can get their, Nintendo's Pro controller and design it your way, and Sony's DualSense and design it your way and stuff like that. I think that's really cool. It makes your controller really personal to you, right? Because you're picking all the colors and everything. It's unique. No one else has one like yours because you picked and designed yours yourself. Right. And that makes it just makes it more personal, and it's really cool and fun to go out there and do that. So it would be cool to see other developers, other publishers and developers of the consoles do something similar. So do you guys have anything else you want to talk about before we wrap this up?
Nope. I'm ready for you guys to buy me my Elite 2 special design controller now. Come on. You guys all got one. I'm ready for you guys to buy me one now.
Well, you started it, and we just upgraded.
I'm stuck with the standard one that came out. You guys got the cool one.
One of these days. Yeah, and I'm sorry I didn't start on this before, because I love this thing. It's wonderful.
I've already gone through 2 of them, so or I've gone through one. I have a second one, so.
Yeah. Yep, and like Pat says, if you haven't played one, anybody listening out there, if you've never played on the Series 2 controller and you're like, this is not for me, or why would I need that, or whatever. If you have a friend that has one and maybe they let you borrow it or something, I don't know what the case may be, but sit down and play with one for a while, and you will not want to go back to your regular controller. It's just, you'll be like, nope, I'm good with, this is what I want. I don't want to touch any other controller. And I'm sure the DualSense Edge will have that same feel to it, right? Once you play on that, you'd be like, I don't want to play a regular PlayStation 5 controller. I want to play this one. You get that premium feeling from these controllers. They feel premium. They respond and act premium. So you get that sense when you're using it. And I didn't know how I was going to feel with my Series 2, but once I did start playing with it, it's an awesome controller, and I don't want to play any other Xbox controller besides that one. Right. I just don't want to go back because I like the feel and the way that it works and everything. It just all works really well. That's how every controller should be made, right? All of them, not just the series. You shouldn't have to spend $200 to buy the premium controller. Everyone should have the opportunity to have one. But let us know down in the comments below. What do you think? Have you picked up a DualSense Edge? Are you thinking about picking one up? Does this deter you from picking one up? Maybe you're like us and we kind of want to see what the reviews have to say. People out there, what they say about the battery life and stuff like that. Once people get into people's hands coming out in January, then we'll get a better idea of how moderately shorter that battery life really is, right? we're fearing the worst, and I hope we don't have to, but we'll see. But let us know down in the comments below. Other than that, thanks for everybody for watching. Make sure to like the video. Make sure to subscribe if you're not already. And just so you know, just for Christmas, I know the holidays are coming out. If you watch this before Christmas, before the holidays, if not, it may still be going on after the holidays, so definitely check. But the subscribe button should still be free. So if you want to hit the subscribe button, I would do it now. I think it's a holiday offer that maybe YouTube's doing. Maybe it's a promotion that we're going along with, but definitely check out the subscribe button if you're not already, and click it before it goes up in price. All right. Right now it's free for everyone. So, do it for yourself, your family, your dog. But other than that, we'll see you next time, everyone.
See ya.